how much money did you start with like at the beginning?
I think 2000 is a great amount to start at. It's kind of a
Mm-hmm.
perfect point for a beginner.
What do you think like is the key to succeed on Amazon?
For me personally, I found my success by networking with other sellers. Product sourcing, I think the best way for me, especially for a beginner, would be to reverse source.
When did you start to use a repricer?
I started using a repricer about 2 weeks selling on Amazon, and I saw an immediate boost. BQool forever. And it's the best. Like, my sales instantly boosted.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Today, BQool invited the guest who's not been selling on Amazon for too long, but for the few months he's been selling on Amazon, he increased his sales by approximately 2,400%. Today, James is going to share a lot of different tips, like product sourcing tips and some other useful knowledge with all of you. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome James, aka Jimmy FBA. Hello, James. How are you?
Good, how are you?
For the first question, I want to ask you, can you introduce yourself to some people who don't know you yet?
Yeah, sure. So I'm James, but online I go by Jimmy FBA. Been selling for almost 6, 7 months now, and it's my full-time gig now. It's great.
Oh, that's perfect. So, how do you decide to sell on Amazon? And is Amazon your first online business?
So Amazon wasn't my first online business. I started with a marketing agency, and that didn't go too well. And so I saw a course by Flips for Miles and Fuel to Profit, went ahead and purchased that, and it's history. So.
Oh, that sounds interesting. So before, Amazon, you used to do some marketing, right? And then you decided that it's a good to try Amazon business as well.
Yeah. Marketing didn't do too well, so.
Oh, and so far, you've been selling on Amazon for 7 months, right?
Around there, yeah.
Okay. And can you describe a day as an Amazon seller? How do you what do you do during the day, and what would you do as an Amazon seller?
Basically just wake up, check the sales in the morning, and if there's nothing else to do, I'll kind of do some back end. If there's no prep to do, I'll do some back end work on my computer just here. And if there is prep to do, if I need to prep items to ship to Amazon, I'll go ahead and drive over to a warehouse and prep items and get those shipped out. But besides that, it's kind of laid back. It's pretty nice.
At the moment, do you do prepping products by yourself and also the product sourcing and everything by yourself? Is it correct?
Yeah, by myself.
Oh, wow, that's interesting. And at the moment, how do you think how many hours would you spend for product sourcing? How many hours would you spend for prepping your products? How many hours will you spend for listing or customer support during the day?
So sourcing products, I don't really spend much time, maybe 5 minutes. Most of my products are just products I can replenish. It's very, very
Mm-hmm.
nice. For prep, that's a different story. Sometimes it'll be all night just prepping. And that's
Oh,
one bottleneck I have in my business. So I think my next step is to start sending everything to a prep center.
mm-hmm.
And what was the last point again? Sorry.
Oh yeah, maybe something customer support. Maybe you need to answer customers, so sending the products to FBA as well, or something else you would need to do, or there's nothing much.
In terms of back end stuff, like just checking sales, optimizing BQool and whatnot, I would say 30 minutes to an hour a day. So yeah, not too much.
Also, during the day, it seems like you would spend around 4 hours, right? In total for everything. Is it correct, or maybe a little bit more?
Depends on the day. If I have a lot of stuff to prep to send to Amazon, it'll be a lot more than 4 hours sometimes. But typically it's an hour or two a day. So
Okay, that's not bad. That seems to be pretty fun. I want to ask you, how much money did you start with, at the beginning?
So when I first bought the course, I started out with around $2,000 US dollars in cash.
Mm-hmm. And was it enough, to start Amazon business, for you, or you think you would need to start let's say if you start from over again, would you still start with 2,000, or you would invest a different amount?
I mean, if I had more cash, I would definitely invest more, but I think 2,000 is a great amount to start at. I think it's kind of a
Mm-hmm.
perfect point for a beginner. If you go
Mm-hmm.
too low, then you don't have enough profit to pay for your software, and if you go too high, it's only up from there. So yeah.
All right. And from this 2,000, how would you spend it? Would you spend all on inventory, or you would also do some tools, maybe product sourcing tools or something else? How would you spend that 2,000 US dollars?
If it were me personally, I would allocate $20 towards a seller multi-tool like SellerAmp or RevSeller,
Mm-hmm.
and then another $20 towards Keepa. And then if I'm just starting out, I would do $50 towards BQool. That's what I
Mm-hmm.
started with. I think there's a free trial as well. Am I correct on that?
Oh yeah. Like 14-day free trial.
Yeah. So, or free trial and then $50 a month. Because if you're just starting out, you won't have a big catalog, so you won't need many AI slots in BQool to set up. And then everything else I would spend on inventory.
Oh, inventory. Okay. And for that amount of money, like you would purchase inventory, like how do you think, like, like for how long, like it would last? Like, would it be like for a month, or like for 2 months, or like it all depends, like how fast you would sell it?
It depends on how fast you would sell it. And for me personally, I like to choose very high volume products sell very fast. Maybe not the best
Mm-hmm.
return on investment, but still sell really fast. And in terms of time, I would say between a month, 2 months on there, month and a half. Yeah.
From there, like you would just start to like reinvest. Like, so let's say like from those 2,000, like you sell, like maybe like you get like 3,000, so you just like reinvest that 3,000 back to like get inventory, and then like do it like over and over and over again, right?
That's kind of how I started out. I mean, I would say if you're thinking about quitting your job and starting Amazon, do Amazon for a bit. That way you have enough profits to reinvest. And then
Mm-hmm.
maybe you can pay yourself or whatnot. That's my advice.
And do you think it's possible to start Amazon as a side project, like as a part-time job?
If it's easily, yeah. So I started out and it became my
Oh, okay,
full-time gig.
perfect.
Yeah.
At the moment, like, do you use like FBA and FBM, or do you use them both of them, or like just like one of?
So it kind of depends on the time of year. Typically it's FBA, well, year round it's FBA. But if it's back to school season, at least in the US, or if there's Christmas season, Halloween, Easter, then I'll do FBM and get the products
And
faster to the customer and whatnot.
how do you decide like when do you need to use FBA and when do you need to use FBM? Like, how do you usually decide like is a good product to use FBM, or like, yeah, how would you allocate it?
So it kind of depends on the Amazon fees as well as
Mm-hmm.
what time your inventory arrives to you. So if my inventory arrives for Christmas, like in November, I'll send it FBA. But if it arrives right now, then I'll do FBM because it won't have time Amazon warehouses, fulfillment centers, and become available to sell. So yeah, that's how
Oh,
I
right,
decide.
right. What kind of products do you usually sell on Amazon?
Yeah. So I right now my big focus is on apparel and accessories, a bit of supplements, but right now the big one is apparel and accessories. So
Oh, okay, I see. So like when you choose like the item to sell, like is there like a specific price range you're looking for, or like is there anything you think like you usually look for, like, or maybe like a specific ROI or like anything else? Like how do you usually decide like this is the good item that you want to sell?
yeah, so it can't be too big. I like things to be smaller. Not small, though, nothing under $12 on Amazon. And in
Mm-hmm.
terms of ROI, I try to go for at least 20 if it has a lot of volume. If it doesn't have that
Oh,
good of a
20.
volume, 25. Recently, it's been a lot higher because of the Christmas rush. And in
Oh
terms of
yeah, that's
monthly
true.
sales,
Yes.
yeah, in terms of monthly sales, I try to go for at least 800. And if it's a lower ROI item, I'll go for at least 1,000.
Okay, that's useful. Thank you. And how do you usually forecast the sales like for the month?
So the tool I use is SellerAmp, and
Mm-hmm.
SellerAmp will tell you the estimated monthly sales. And so you can kind of see, how many the estimated sales basically, as well as on the Keep Offers tab, you can see the stock of other sellers. And so I'll look on that tab and see how fast is their stock going out of stock, by depending on that. So
And also like there's like sometimes like when a lot of sellers like start to sell like a specific item, like the competition is getting too high, and then like it's also gonna getting harder to sell a specific item. Like, do you usually like avoid like find a way like to avoid the competition?
yeah, so one easy way to see this is if the Keep Offers graph is moving upwards, which means there's more sellers hopping on. And if I see that personally, that's just a huge red flag. Also, if I Google the item and it comes up on Google with the price that's automatically profitable on Amazon, then I won't buy it because I know other people can find it that easily as well, and it's just not worth it.
How about your first item you sold on Amazon? Like, do you remember like what was that first item, and how did you find that first item to sell?
Yeah, so the item was a supplement called Colon Broom, and basically the course I bought came with a community, and in that community I was kind of clueless any profitable items, and me saying, hey, buy this and source off of this listing, and that listing was Colin Firm, and that's kind of how I got started. So
Oh wow, okay, that's cool. So like online course actually had like some suggestion for the items as well. And do you remember like how much money do you spend for the online course?
yeah, so I want to say it was $350 for
Mm-hmm.
the course, and for the return on investment on that, it's been huge for me. So yeah.
Oh, right. That's really cool. How about like, what do you think is the key to succeed on Amazon? Because I think there's a lot of people that start on Amazon, but like pretty fast they would give up. Like, so what do you think like is the key to succeed on Amazon?
For me personally, I found my success by networking with other sellers. Because
Mm-hmm.
if you put two and two together, it makes one plus one is three in this business model. That's what I like to say. Because if you know something and someone else knows something and you don't know what each other knows, that makes sense. You can, trade, share, build a friendship, and basically scale together even faster than you would if you were alone. So that's my big strategy, and it's been great. I've made so many friends. It's awesome.
How do you make sure that you won't compete with those people? Like, how do you guys gonna kind of like find a way that you actually gonna help each other, but not gonna hurt each other's business?
Yeah, so the listings we share or the leads we share typically have a lot of volume, meaning
Mm-hmm.
there's room for two in the room. If two or three extra sellers come on, I like to keep my circle, I guess, kind of small in terms of Amazon because of that. So, but yeah, I like to keep it small
Oh, okay,
because
perfect.
of that reason.
Okay, perfect. How about like product sourcing? Like, what kind of tips can you give to people for the product sourcing?
For product sourcing, I think the best way for me, especially for a beginner, would be to reverse source, see what other
Mm-hmm.
storefronts are selling. If it's profitable, buy it as well. And it's very easy to do. And I think it's personally the best way to source. Once you become pretty seasoned and you know what you're doing, you can look at an item and know exactly which website to find it on, what coupons you can use, what sign bonus and whatnot. So that's my strategy.
So like at the moment, like would you suggest like to try to find items on eBay, or like, oh, it's not necessary, it can be eBay, like it can be like some other websites as well to look for the items to resell on Amazon?
I would say, honestly, any website, you kind of have to get a
Mm-hmm.
feel for it when you're reverse sourcing. Like if you're into sport goods, places like Academy Sportswear, Famous Footwear, Hibbett Sports, places like that. If you're into beauty products, Sephora, Kohl's, Ulta, stuff like that. So it kind of depends on the
Mm-hmm.
niche of the product. And I don't typically go to eBay to find my products. So
Oh, right. So at the moment, do you do like mostly online arbitrage, or you also do something else?
So at the moment, I'm doing online arbitrage, but next year I'm looking to scale into more equity and cash flow based businesses, which would
Mm-hmm.
be wholesale and private label.
So you want to try with wholesale and private label. And how did you decide that like it's a good time for you to try? Because I know like actually a lot of sellers that try to avoid to do the private label, right? Because then like you need to create your own demand for the product. So like, and for you, like what do you want to try with private label, and how would you create the demand for your own items? What do you plan for that?
Yeah, so for private label, I bought a course actually on it, or a mentorship, I should say. And they kind of go through it where you find a product that already has a lot, but not a lot of
Mm-hmm.
supply on Amazon, a lot of keyword searches and whatnot. And so that halfway solves the demand problem. And then the other way I would get demand is just break even on my product PPC ads. And then after 3 or 4 months,
Mm-hmm.
when the product has enough reviews, that's when I'll stop running the ads and let the product sell.
Okay, that sounds interesting. So, like in the future, like, are you planning to do like all of those tactics? I mean, like online arbitrage, wholesale, and private label, or in the future you plan to stop doing like online arbitrage and only focus on wholesale and private label?
So I'll always be online arbitrage, at least in some way, shape, or form, because that's just
Mm-hmm.
what I guess, grew with. But I want to stick to mainly wholesale whilst expanding my private label business on the side. So
Mm. How about like when you personally look for the items to sell, like how do you find those items? How do you decide that you want to sell in this category, and like why do you decide like to sell those particular categories or particular items? Like how do you usually decide it and choose it?
so for me, the category doesn't really matter. As long as it's profit and
Hmm.
makes me money, I don't really care which category it's in. For me, it can't be hazmat or a dangerous good either. I just don't want to risk that. And anything that I can buy a lot of, pretty much. Anything that I can buy a lot of has a good ROI. It's the item for me. So.
And what do you think help you to scale up your business? Like, do you think following like those like rules, your strategies like help you to scale up your business really fast?
I think the two things that would scale up your business really fast, especially if you're a beginner. Well, if you're a beginner, get the basics down. But once you've got those basics down, if you want to go into it, credit is a good option, a business credit card or a loan. Don't over leverage yourself. Keep it very safe, mitigate your risk. And the second thing I would say is just talk with other people, network with other sellers, build friendships, see what they're selling and what they're doing, and see if you can get a grasp on that, and then share what you're selling. Maybe there's something they can learn from you.
Right.
So
how about Repricer? Like, when did you start to use a Repricer?
I started using a repricer about 2 weeks, selling on Amazon, and I saw an immediate boost. I used BQool, always been BQool forever, and it's the best. Like, my sales instantly boosted. This December, I forgot to add BQool for the first 2 days, and I was doing around 7,000 to 5,000 in sales on December 1st and 2nd. Enabled BQool, and I had my record days, 26 and 27,000.
Oh, wow. So just by using a BQool Repricer, like, it helped you to scale up your business really fast, right?
Yeah, and it's great too, because if you use a repricer like BQool, you can get your products sold faster, capital gets returned to you faster, you can reinvest, you have less turnover, and so you grow a lot faster.
Oh yeah, that's true. And before using Repricer, did you reprice manually or you just didn't reprice at all?
I would reprice manually, but again, I was just starting out, so I had about 2 or 3 products. It wasn't much of a hassle. But once I started extending my catalog using something like BQool, where I can add tons of repricing rules, more on a ton of products in a very fast and timely manner, that was kind of a game changer for me.
In BQool Repricer, like, what kind of rules do you usually use?
So my big one is AI equalizer, but it also depends on the monthly volume the listing gets. So for me, if there's a lot of sellers and there's not the best amount of monthly sales, I'm going to put on AI sales maximizer. If it gets a good amount of sales and high volume, decent to low amount of sellers, it's always AI equalizer.
Oh, I see. So is it like you're gonna, for a specific item, like first you're gonna assign like one rule, then like maybe like after a few days, like if you see like sales like stay the same or go up, like you will switch to another rule? Like, is this how you're gonna do at the moment?
That's kind of how I do it, actually. I'll start at a high minimum price, and I'll enable AI. If I'm not getting sales, I lower my minimum price. And if I'm still not getting, I'm going to try sales maximizer. If that doesn't work, I just got to keep lowering my minimum price. So
Okay, that's pretty good. And like, how many days you would check your prices and results?
every day, you got to make sure
Every
you're
day.
selling
Oh,
out every
wow.
day. Yeah.
And we also have like a conditional repricer, which also can be useful for you because can help you to set up all those rules. Like, for example, you can set up different conditions and like it will help you to switch automatically like when it meets different conditions. So maybe like you can check it out. So it's like similar to AI, but like for same listing, you can assign like different rules. So like every time like it will change. Like, for example, once it reached the amount of sales you expected, like it will switch to another rule, or if these sales didn't go up, like it will change the rule or lower down your ROI, like, or price. So like I think it's pretty useful as well for the Amazon sellers.
Interesting. I'll have to look into that because I've only used just a single AI rule, I guess.
Yeah, because it looks more complicated, so a lot of sellers, they probably get scared when they see it, but like it's really useful and it's really like can help you to save even more time and have like probably even more sales. Now I want to ask you, like, how about like listings? Like when people start out, like what do you think, like how many listings they should have?
It all depends on your capital and how much you spend. I would recommend getting at least 3 to 5 listings. That way, if one listing starts to tank in price, you still mitigate your risk with 4 other listings. So you're not losing a lot of it if you go under. But besides that, it kind of depends on how much capital you have to start, as well as how deep you go on the products. So
now I want to ask you, James, like how much money you think is reasonable to start Amazon business, let's say like in 2023?
So in 2023, I would say if you're starting out with a smaller amount of capital, anything less than $500, I would recommend books because you're going to waste your profits on reinvesting in your software. You're not going to get it anywhere with online arbitrage or wholesale, at least if you don't choose very highly profitable items. If you have between 1,000, 2,000, anything less than 100,000, I would recommend online arbitrage. Maybe wholesale, but
Mm-hmm.
it's a lot easier to get started with online arbitrage. And anything higher than 50,000, online arbitrage is still great, but I think wholesale and fleet private label is the avenue you want to go if you want to scale.
Do you think like how much money you think is possible to make? Let's say if you start with 500 with the books, and let's say you start with 2,000 or 3,000 with online arbitrage, or you start with 50,000 with wholesale or private label. Like how do you think, like how much money is it possible to make from those different budgets?
Yeah, so it kind of depends on the return on investment of the product. For books, depending on where you source them, you can go to library sales or thrift shops, Goodwills or whatnot. Those ROIs are very high, especially for textbooks. So $500 can easily be doubled, tripled, whatnot. With
Mm-hmm.
online arbitrage, if you were starting out with $2,000, I would say a good area for an ROI, especially for sourcing with a minimum ROI of 25, you can easily make $500, $600, $700. I think that's pretty reasonable. And then with wholesale, it's a bit different because you have to build relationships with your suppliers. You get better deals as you go. But when you're starting out, I think 20 to 30% ROI is a good range, maybe 15%. So if you're starting out with 50 grand, maybe 8, 10, 12,000 is a good profit guesstimate. And then private
Mm.
label, it's a bit different. It's not a exponential type growth curve. It's more of a linear curve, but you add more products as you go. So it's exponential, if that makes sense. And first, I think purchase order is, for me, going to follow is between 100 and 200%. So if I'm starting out with $5,000 invested in inventory, I can expect to make between $5,000 and $10,000 back on that.
All right, right. When you start like any kind of like business, right? Like doesn't matter with like what budget, like it's easy to make a lot of mistakes. What would you suggest to people to avoid those mistakes? Like what do you need to do like to avoid to have like those kind of like mistakes or like when you start out like on Amazon?
So for me to avoid those mistakes, the course I went through kind of outlined those mistakes. And if there's any nitty type mistakes, I would ask the community that the course came with and ask them, hey, like, is something bad going to happen if I do this? What mistake should I avoid on this listing? And that's kind of how I got my advice. I didn't really make many mistakes in the beginning, and because of that, the community and the course pretty much educated me on all of them. Most of them. So
Oh, okay, okay. Now, like, I want to ask you, what do you think of working with Amazon VAs? Do you think it's necessary and helpful? And like, what is your thoughts about that?
So I know a lot of people that do $200,000, $300,000 a month in sales. Some of them have VAs and some of them don't. Both of them do great, or all of them do great. And so it kind of depends on what you want for your business. If you're more focused on going wide in products, I would recommend getting a VA. If you're more on going deep on products, accept ROI, but a lot faster sales and turnover, then I don't think a VA is necessary, but it's kind of up to you. So,
All right. How about yourself? Like, are you thinking to start working with VAs, or you think it's not necessary?
so right now I don't have a VA, but I think later in the future, I'll hire
Mm-hmm.
one for wholesale to reach out to suppliers and distributors for me.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of my plan with the VAs.
Okay, perfect, perfect. And how about like what kind of parts of jobs you think it's easy to outsource and should be outsourced, and what kind of jobs you think Amazon seller they need to do by themselves?
So in theory, you can outsource almost anything with an Amazon business. I think at the max though, for me personally, if I were to go the VA route, you could outsource your repricing, your sourcing, your buying. I think the only part where you need an owner to oversee that would just be the finances and oversight of the entire thing.
Perfect, perfect. And also, like, I'm kind of curious, what is your thoughts about retail arbitrage? Because you mentioned like online arbitrage, like wholesale and private label, and how about like retail arbitrage?
Yeah, so I think retail arbitrage is great, especially if you're just starting out, because
Mm-hmm.
you can find some really good deals and really good products that could have really high returns on investment, ROIs. And I think it's great. The thing for me though that doesn't make it really, I guess, doesn't really make a path that it's not scalable. Things like online arbitrage and wholesale, they have scalable models Whereas with retail arbitrage, you have to be the one going in stores, scanning the products and whatnot. Whereas with online arbitrage or wholesale, you're just at the click of a button, buy, next
Oh yeah,
next
right.
product. So that's my take.
Like you need to invest like way more time like to do retail arbitrage, but like returns is not necessarily gonna be higher. Yeah. Is it right?
Yeah.
For your business, like do you use a lot of different like coupon systems, like let's say like Honey or like some other one like which will have like some like cashback?
Yeah, so the big three ones, yeah, the big three coupon sites that I use are Honey, Rakuten, and Capital One Shopping. If Honey doesn't have a coupon, Rakuten may have one. If Rakuten doesn't have one, Capital One may have one. So I always try out those three coupon sites, but that's my strategy with coupons.
And how much money do you think it helps you to get back, like, or like how much money it help you to save by using those like coupon, like cashback services?
So in terms of cash back, I don't factor in cash back into my return. It's more of like an end of the year bonus. But for coupons, they can make or break a product. You know what I mean? So if a product is $20, coupon may bring it down to $12, and that makes the product profitable. So it kind of depends on the
Oh,
coupon
that's
and
true. That's
whatnot.
true.
So
And also, like, I'm kind of curious, like, when you get your inventory, like, how do you plan, like for how long do you want to sell that inventory? Do you usually keep inventory for a month ahead, or for 2 months ahead, or maybe just like for a few weeks?
so as soon as I get inventory, I send it in to Amazon. I want to get it sold as fast as I can and get my money back to me so I can reinvest.
Also, like as soon as possible. So probably like just like a month of inventory or like few weeks of inventory. Is that correct?
Yeah, around that.
Okay, perfect, perfect. Also, like I'm kind of curious, like in the future when you do the private label, will you also like sell on other platforms, or you want to sell only on Amazon, like still?
Yeah. So I think with private label, my big goal in the future is to be a distribution company with wholesale and possibly my private label products. But starting out, I think private label on Amazon is a good way to go. Maybe expand it to the Walmart marketplace, but for now, it's Amazon.
All right, right. And also, like, what kind of products you think it's the best to sell if you do the private label? Is it like electronics or like something else?
I think anything that doesn't involve batteries, liquids, stuff like that, things that are easy household items, kitchen items, office items, maybe if you don't have electronics, things like that, garden tools. So
And also, like, kind of like not too big items, right? Like, so you don't need to pay too much for like for delivery as well.
yeah, just a smaller item is kind of what I'm shooting for.
And for the items you sell at the moment, like, do you need to do like any quality control for the items you sell? Like, it's not necessary.
I think for some items, yes, but for the most part, not really, no. My supplier, or I guess the sites that send me the products, do a pretty good job of quality themselves. So it kind of makes my job pretty easy.
Okay, perfect, perfect. And also, like, I'm kind of curious, like, what do you usually do, like, at your free time, like, when you're not an Amazon seller, like, what do you usually do?
In my free time, I like hanging out with friends. I live in Utah, so fishing and hiking is camping as well as a huge like favorite pastime, I guess, of mine. Reading, I enjoy reading, so playing chess as well. It's another favorite.
Oh, playing chess. Okay, this is pretty cool. And also, like, for the reading books, like, what kind of books would you recommend to people?
Me personally, if it's fiction, I like Lord of the Rings. It's probably my favorite nonfiction book. And if it's that's fiction. If it's nonfiction, I recently read a book called The Almanac of Naval Ravikant, and I really like that book, and I would recommend any young entrepreneur to take a read on that one.
Oh, thank you. Okay, I'll also check out those books and try to read them. Thank you for sharing that. We're getting to the end of our video. Like, thank you so much for sharing like all those tips and like, and also like where people should go to find you. Like, is there like a social media or somewhere people should go and follow you?
Yeah, so I have two. My Instagram is Jimmy FBA, and then my Twitter is FBA Jimmy.
Oh, perfect. So we're definitely gonna include those links so people go and follow you and check out. If people follow, they can learn more about Amazon, right? And
yeah, I try to help as many people as I can through my social media platform. That's kind of my goal. So yeah, drop a follow.
In the future, are you planning to open a YouTube channel as well?
Yeah, I think later this December, I plan to launch a YouTube channel.
Oh, wow, that's great. I'm excited about that. So, like, we're gonna include those links, so definitely go and follow James on Jimmy FBA. So thank you so much, James, for sharing like all those tips. Like I think it's great and it's really useful. I personally learned a lot today, like in today's video. So thank you so much for today's video.
Yeah, thank you for having me on.
See you next time.